Gareth Price, what does NEC mean by the new last mile?
The new last mile is really our one-stop shop solution for delivering the LTE brand promise into complex urban environments.
And why do cities pose extra complexities for mobile operators?
You've got very demanding urban city users, central business district. They're consuming lots of traffic, lots of data, and they need it now. So we've got to be able to provide the coverage capacity to them in the urban canyons, and this really means you need small cells. It's bringing the coverage capacity down to street level.
But small cell deployment can prove to be very expensive for telcos.
Yeah, I mean, deploying small cells is very different than macro. First of all, in macro, you would roll it out in a geographic way, maybe by postcode across the country. But in small cells, it's really demand driven. And this means that it can be anywhere in the country according to that demand. So you need to be able to work out where that demand is going to be. We have some tools to do that and services. So we can use social media, social networks, and base station data conjoined in order to work out heat maps and where the demand is. And then you've got the problem that you need to have crews all over the country delivering not necessarily in the same place. So it's a different profile from an economic point of view. We believe you need 6 to 10 small cells for every macro. And while the cost of equipment comes down significantly with a small cell, some of the on-site services like laying power or doing planning can be very expensive and don't scale in the same way. That's why it's very important to have one vendor partner that can provide the full solution and go to the site in the least number of trips, both for maintenance and deployment.
Mobile backhaul for macro sites relies on line of sight, but this isn't always possible for small cells.
When you want to put these small cells down at street level, perhaps on a lamppost or on a wall, you now have this problem that you're unable to get a connection back to your nearest macro site because there's big buildings or foliage in the way. And the foliage even grows during the year and causes all sorts of problems. So then we have a non-line of sight problem. The good news is NEC's now introduced some new non-line of sight backhaul solutions which enable us to connect to those small cells from the macro sites. But the problem is planning those solutions. This is very different than typical link planning. You now need to have a 3D map of the city, and you have to be able to calculate, ray trace the path between the hub and the small cell. So NEC's been working with its partners to create tools that are able to meet this new non-line of sight challenge.
Operators want to avoid vendor lock-in and decouple intelligence from their deployments. So how do you engage with this openness?
It's a big problem. I think at the moment vendors are very stuck in the sense that they have to buy small cells from the same people that they're buying the macro vendor if they pick the same SON technology. And SON technology is a self-organizing network, and that software is really the intelligence of the network, and it's what allows the macros and the small cells to work together. So if you have open SON technology, it's already standardized, 3GPP define it. If you use open SON technology, then you can have different intelligence, different small cells, different macros, and it'll all work together. And we've been working very closely with 3GPP, with NGMN and the Small Cell Forum, not only to define the specifications, but to run the interoperability testing to ensure that it all works. It's very important, I think, to decouple the intelligence of the network from the equipment. And that's one of the trends that we're seeing here in the show. The innovation cycle is very different between the equipment and the intelligence. And time again, we're able to provide more value to customers by bringing in that intelligence in a separate way from the equipment. So that's why we very much push multi-vendor HetNets. That's the point. And our new last mile proposition is really a one-stop shop to deliver that multi-vendor HetNet in a very cost-efficient way, with a minimum number of trips to site, with a very optimized portfolio, with special backhaul technology, with highly optimized and very cost-efficient eNodeBs, and all the services that are required in order to deploy it.
And how do you extend this to rural sites and other so-called VIP locations?
What we're seeing is that the first layer of LTE macro has been deployed, especially in Europe. But now there are some VIP customers that have no coverage. We have golf courses and ski resorts and hotels and other places who are not very happy that they're missing out on the LTE system. So that's why we're helping customers deploy small cells in these very tactical ways. Another opportunity or another problem that our customers are facing is license compliance. There's no doubt that the business case for deploying macros in the countryside is more than challenging. It's basically impossible. But we have small cell solutions that are very cost efficient, and with our very proven and tested Passolink backhaul network, we can easily link one of our small cells back to the main network over Passolink.
So what's the benefit of a one-stop shop solution?
I think it's the only way to economically do small cells. You know, when you do the business case, I've seen 512 site scenarios. The small cells in the middle of the street, by the side of the street, up the wall, how many traffic permits you have to get to stop the traffic, whether the power's there already, whether you're renting the power, you name it. When you look at all these different solutions, and what I might add, that while the strategy and the technology is very advanced, very complicated in the RAN, in terms of frequency planning and architecture, when it comes to deployment, you have so many backhaul options, from fiber to non-line of sight backhaul and other types, that you really need to go with someone who really understands backhaul, and NEC's got a very strong pedigree there. And when you put all that together, the variety and complexity and the diversity of site implementation, picking NEC as your one-stop shop solution provider for the new last mile is a very good decision.
Gareth Price, thank you very much indeed.